is Pop Culture Yearbook. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
And I'm Giff.
You left that little pause again, didn't you?
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
So we at Pop Culture Yearbook have an announcement to make here. We're going to be a little different for indefinitely. We don't know how long. We'll have to find out, but we figure for at least a month or so here, we're going to be a little different. Pete is not going to be on the show. He's taking a hiatus. And so, of course, we miss him because he's one of the original members. I mean, he was here with me before Gifford ever was.
That's right.
But Pete needs some time off for different reasons. And so we're wishing him the best and hopefully that they all works out. But it's just going to be me and Giff. It's going to be a two-man show for a while here. That's
right. Yeah, we're going from the three-man weave down to the give and go. That's what we're doing here.
Maybe we'll find a way to like incorporate some guests throughout the month coming up or not. We don't know. Yeah. But tonight is kind of shooting from the hip because it was all happening fast. So it's just us tonight.
Yep. And a little bit different of a subject for tonight too, because this is one that we had the fans pick. So I think that's a first for us too.
So this whole month we've been doing things that we missed, and we picked Married to Children. Hopefully you enjoyed our interview last week with Richard German. That was pretty fun for us.
Yeah.
We did George Michael's Faith, and we did The Princess Bride. 3 big bangers that we hadn't done before. Mm-hmm. They just all happened to come from 1987 too, not on purpose. It just happened that way.
That's correct.
Tonight's choice was chosen by the fans, and we put out a poll early in the month, and we really hope people would vote, and we actually got more votes than usual. So that was nice.
Yes, it was.
And it was a clear winner. Pete put up AC/DC's Black and Black, which that would have been fun to listen to. I'll tell you, I've never actually listened to that album. Like,
oh, really? Oh, it's a good one.
Have you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Really?
Yeah, I used to listen to that one quite a bit.
Of course, I know. I know some hits and everything, but I would have been interested to hear the whole thing. And then I put up Cape Fear, looking for like a little different style of movie, one of my favorite, most quotable movies out there. And we both got some votes, but Clifford's choice, which was one of my other main choices as well, was Major League. And that was a clear runaway winner. The fans spoke, and they spoke clearly.
You could say that was kind of a home run.
Kind of a home run.
Yeah. Right.
They said, forget about Cape Fear. Give them the heater.
Strike these other guys out and go with Major League.
And baseball is a big thing for Pete. He loves baseball, but he's not here with us. But this is, for me and Giff, this has been one of our favorite movies since we knew each other.
Yeah.
I mean, this came out in 1989. We met in, I guess, technically 87. But I mean, we've been quoting this movie just about our entire friendship, and it's one of the best ones out there.
For sure.
And I also want to throw in one last thing. So our other sometime co-host, Dave, who hasn't been on for a while, but if you're a fan of the show, you should know Dave. He actually is one of the originators of the show as well. I texted him today about this, and he says that to him, this is the best sports movie ever. And I told him that
argue.
It's in a conversation.
Yep, for sure.
And so I told him I would bring that up tonight and make sure that was mentioned. And so there you go, Dave. We don't disagree with you. There's other ones I'd argue for at the same time, but it's definitely in the conversation, and we're very, very excited to talk about it.
Yes, we are.
So,
well, do you want since you're rolling, do you just want to dive right into your memories of this movie?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
So at one point on the show, I don't remember what episode it was, but I brought up that there's 2 very specific movies that I remember seeing when they came out in the movie theater with my mom. And I didn't see it with any of my friends, and they weren't movies you'd think you'd really go to with your mom, but she knew I wanted to see them, and she saw,
Showgirls?
Did our Naked Gun. We have an episode on the Naked Gun, and I probably brought it up then. She took me to see the Naked Gun, and the other one I remember her taking me to see was Major League. And that would have been a little more interesting one to watch with her, I guess. But, whatever. I was 15 years old, and I was old enough to watch it. But still, it's just, she's not a big baseball fan. She's not into, like, sports as much or anything either. So, but that was where I saw it in the movie theater. I think we went to Pipestone, Minnesota to see this movie. It could have been Marshall. I could be wrong. But my memory tells me it was Pipestone, which was a 2-theater, tiny theater in a town of, like 5,000 people. I was very excited to see this movie when it came out. I was completely into baseball. This is on the heels of the Twins winning the World Series in 1987. Kirby Puckett is like everybody's hero in Minnesota. Unfortunately, things came out about him in the future, but at the time, he is the biggest sports hero ever, and he still really is, regardless of the bad stuff. I mean, who's a bigger, more effective sports hero in the state of Minnesota than Kirby Puckett? There isn't one. So don't even try to.
Right.
We won 2 World Series with that guy, and I was collecting baseball cards at that time, and so Pete's not here, but we would collect baseball cards, and we would look at them together, and we watched Twins games, and we just spent so much of our summers watching baseball and talking about baseball. Also, one of my favorite shows at the time was Mr. Belvedere, and so I knew Bob Uecker from Mr. Belvedere and from all the commercials that he did, and so there were some other guys I recognized too. I probably recognized Charlie Sheen and a couple of the others, but Bob Uecker was totally on my radar at this time, thanks to that show. And I've just loved this movie ever since. It's full of so many quotes and memorable scenes. In fact, I remember when we did I think it was the Bull Durham episode. We have a Bull Durham episode too. We drafted our favorite scenes in sports movies, and I picked one from this movie, and so did you, Giff. We picked 2 separate scenes, basically from the same scene, but 2 sub scenes from that scene, and we're going to go heavy into that tonight.
Yes.
And
we will.
Half my notes are from that scene, so it's going to be great.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are my memories. It's great. It's been great since the first time I saw it. And take it away. What did you remember?
So this was one of the movies, I've talked about this before on the podcast, that my Uncle Jerry, we would send him VHS tapes, and he had HBO, and he would record whatever and then send all these tapes back to us. And this movie was one on one of those VHS tapes. And I remember, because it's there's swearing in it. It's not something that I was going to get to go to the movie theater so I probably would have seen this. You? No, my mom is not as cool as Diane. Let's just put it that way.
Diane, there you go.
Yeah. So I probably would have seen this in 88. I'm just guessing. By the time it came out on HBO, and we would have got the tape back from Uncle Jerry. So this is right when I'm 12 years old. It's funny to think about this now in 2024, but I'm watching this movie with feeling pity for the city of Cleveland. I'm watching this in 88, or I'm sorry, in 90. I'm sorry. I was watching it in 90. So we're only 3 years removed from a World Series championship, and little do we know, we're going to have another one coming a year later. So you look at these
little
people.
Do we know we're going to be the most tortured sports city in America, and there's no discussion about it.
Right.
There's not. So Cleveland has had their moments since then, and we have not.
That is correct. They're still pretty sad, but they've had
won.
their moments.
LeBron won, and the Indians have been in it. And it's really not that close.
But at that point in time, I was like, oh yeah, the poor Cleveland. Oh, I can't imagine having a team that's that bad that never won a World Series, or even went to the World Series in 40 years or whatever it is in the show. So I just remember watching this and just loving it. Like you, I was a Belvedere fan. So Bob Uecker was I just loved everything that he does in this movie. Probably the only other one I probably would have known, Tom Berenger and Charlie Sheen. Those would have been the other two.
I probably you didn't have NBC, but I knew who Corbin Burnson was too. I think thanks to LA. Well, I didn't watch LA Law at this stage, but I knew of it. It was on in the Thursday night lineup. Again, we have a Thursday night NBC lineup episode, so I think I knew Corbin Burnson as well.
Sure, yeah, and I don't think I would have known. I don't think I would have known him from anything, but it's just such a fun movie. Again, I enjoyed baseball. I was never good at it, but I certainly enjoyed watching it. Huge fan of comedies in general, and this was just chock full of great lines, and just very, very funny characters. So, I like how, it's a bit irreverent. I love movies. I've always loved movies where you get the peek inside the locker room, so you see what the guys are like and all the shenanigans that happen. Is always a lot of fun. What's that?
A lot of similarities to this, much like Bull Durham.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of similarities between this movie and Bull Durham with the locker room, with the catcher, like Jake Taylor and Crash Davis. I mean, I think you can pretty much see there's a similarity there. But still, they're very much their own movie, and they're both great in their own way. You brought up Cleveland, and this movie kind of shaped my image of Cleveland too. Like, not just that you were sad for their fans, but like the song at the beginning, "Cleveland City of Magic." I thought that was like a joke. Like, it's just like the city, because they're making it look like such a dump.
Yeah,
like, there's nothing good in those images.
Yep, dark and dank.
And so I just thought, wow, Cleveland must just be a depressing, horrible place to live.
Right.
And then they have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they went on to have other good things and everything. But like at this age, I'm like, wow, I never want to go to Cleveland. That's just a joke.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's just fun as you come into the movie. You got Randy Newman, so it's kind of I've always thought of him as a dope-dee. It's kind of sometimes in his music, it's more laid back and fun,
it's very laid back.
Yeah, so the Burn On, you learn, this about the Cuyahoga River, when it actually started on fire. So that's another thing about Cleveland. It's like, geez, how sad is this place? Even the rivers start on fire, for crying out loud. But yeah, I mean, it sets, the opening scene sets it so well with just, it's looks like poor neighborhoods. It's a lot of factories and shipping and blue collar. You've got the guys, the longshoremen, and it's just a hard working town that deserves better. You know what I'm saying? Like, these people work hard for their money. They deserve to stand behind a champion.
And who can't relate to that? It's
right. Yeah.
And you brought up that it's a great comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is one of my notes for maybe at the end, but it's a movie that it could easily be so campy or dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think of like like The Waterboy, which I like some Adam Sandler movies, but I do not like that movie. Like, just like, it could be a sports movie that's just dumb, but it isn't. It's really well done. It's a really good movie, and there's a lot of things in there that I think make it a good movie. And I think instead of just being a stupid comedy, it's much more than that. That's why I don't think Dave is wrong that you could argue it's the best sports movie ever. You could argue it because it's really good.
Well, and we'll get into the last scene, but there's a couple times during that last game that I get chills watching it. Like, it's just
every time
you just, oh man, it's just so good. Just a line here, or just the overall atmosphere. I mean, it's very formulaic. You kind of know what's going to happen. Like, they're going to win. But it's awesome the way they do it and the way they put it together. Each player has their moment in the sun, and the kind of redemption at the end, and so
but it isn't formulaic, because it ends with just all they did is they won a play-in game. You don't see any playoffs. You don't see the World Series. You don't see the ALCS. And if you know what, if you're not a sports fan, you probably think they won the World Series when you watch the movie. But if you understand baseball, this is just a play-in game, and we learn nothing after that. And I like that. I think that's a great way to end it. It's like, you can imagine whatever you want for the rest of it, because this town needed a pennant, and that's what it means to win a pennant. Is they won their division, they got into the ALCS, which is all there was at that time.
Yep.
For the playoffs. And I think that's great. It's another just great way to differentiate it from some other formulaic sports movies.
Now, if you were unfortunate enough to go to the theater for the only movie that I've ever walked out on, Major League 2, I think you do learn. I must have been
with you that night.
Yep. I think you do learn that they did not win. They didn't even go to the World Series. I think they lost in the ALCS. I believe.
Have no memory of that.
Yeah.
It makes sense, because that would set up the sequel then. Like, now we got to go further. That's probably the whole point of the sequel. Yeah. But I think we hated it.
I think in that one, the White Sox were the Yankees, basically the team that they couldn't get past or something. I don't know, but that was a brutal movie. So we're going to get into some fun facts here. So this movie had an $11 million budget, brought in $75 million at the box office, so did very well for itself. A lot of this movie was shot in Milwaukee. So this was Milwaukee County Stadium, was Cleveland's stadium. It was cheaper to shoot in Milwaukee. In Cleveland, they had to dodge not only the Indians and the Brown schedule, whereas in Milwaukee it was just the Brewers, and I think the Packers had 3 games that they played there.
Packers played either 3 or 4 games a year there.
So it was a little easier to get in and film at the stadium.
As a big fan of baseball, like I totally recognize that was not the right stadium when I was there, but you don't care. It's like, but like as a kid, I even knew that. Like this is Milwaukee. That's not where Cleveland plays.
Right. But you let yourself go.
But I didn't care.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the overhead shots and stuff, they show Cleveland Stadium. It's just when you see like the outfield wall, when there's a play, that's different. But like you see Cleveland Stadium many times throughout the movie.
You mean the outfield wall where you always see the Minnesota Twins up against the Minnesota Twins sign there? I like that.
I don't even think I noticed that.
Really? It's in there a couple times. In the last scene where Hayes robs the home run, it's right up against the Minnesota Twins sign in the outfield.
You know what? I have to watch it again.
Yep. We have newcomers here: Wesley Snipes, Rene Russo, Dennis Haysbert. And
are we doing fun facts still, or the cast now?
No, well, kind of some fun facts. Just saying, like, there's.
Okay.
We'll get into who plays these people, and then Neil Flynn as the longshoreman. This was his first movie credit. So
the janitor.
Yeah,
Scrubs?
from Scrubs, and then he was on the dad in the middle. What I loved is he had some former players in this. Clu Haywood was actually the 92 Cy Young Award winner. So not a batter, but a pitcher. 82, sorry.
The Milwaukee Brewers
and then
that stadium when they went to the World Series.
Oh, is that who he played for, the Brewers?
Yeah, they played he won the Cy Young for the Brewers, and they went to the World Series and lost to the Cardinals in 1982.
Okay. Well,
which I'm sure our children of the 80s Jim would love that we brought that up, because he's a big Cardinals fan,
Sure. And then we also had former Brewer pitcher Willie Mueller, who plays the Duke, the closer for the Yankees in this. So 2 former Brewer pitchers are playing for the Yankees. Another fun fact that I had here was that Charlie Sheen was a former high school pitcher, and during this movie, with the help of roids, was able to get up to an 88-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yeah, he's very open about doing the roids for this movie.
Oh, for sure. And is there any...
Which is totally such a Charlie Sheen thing to do. It's great. Like, he doesn't give a shit. He's great.
He's drinking tiger blood. He's probably got the roids in the tiger blood, while he's pumping those in. But could you have 2 different pitching motions?
Yeah. The other guy who throws about 20 miles an hour.
Right. He looks like he's doing batting practice for Little League, for crying out loud. Such a different athletic motion for these 2 pitchers. So we'll get into the cast here, since I've kind of mentioned, our former players.
Fun facts.
Oh, please.
So it was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film in Japan. Did you find that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty great. So, in Japan, love baseball. Tom Selleck did that whole Mr. Baseball movie. My favorite player in the world, Shane Mack, went to Japan. So apparently they love baseball so much. This was a big hit, or at least it was well received, because it was up for Best Foreign Language Film in Japan.
Oh.
Also, this movie was released on my anniversary.
Yeah.
But April 7th of 89. That is,
did not put that together.
Obviously, it was 22 years later, but. And then this isn't really a fun fact that I found, but to me, as a giant fan of Ted Lasso, this movie seems to have inspired that show so clearly. At the end of season 1, well, first of all, Rebecca Welton, she buys the team because she wants to tear it to the ground to upset her husband. And she wants him to lose, and she's trying to put together the worst team, and that's why she hires Ted Lasso. I mean, it's so clearly embedded in that. But then at the end of season 1, it becomes crystal clear when Ted says, I guess there's only one thing left to do: win the whole fucking thing. And if that's not a call to this movie,
it is a call
in the history of.
That was for sure. That was for sure
It
a
had to be.
call to this movie.
And I loved that.
Absolutely.
Because the second he said, I'm like, God, that's awesome.
Yep.
And then the guy that does whatever the owner's name is, I forget right now, but Charlie, who is like this right-hand man to the owner, he seems so much like Leslie Higgins from Ted Lasso. It's like almost the same type of character. And so I just love the connections and how Ted Lasso, they made their own show, but it's such clearly seemed to be, at least for the first season, such an homage to this movie. And I love that.
Well, and I did read that they tried ending to this where the owner did come around on the team and wanted to be like, yeah, all right, go team. And it tested so poorly because audiences liked having her as a villain. They needed her as a villain.
You need that. Yep.
And you do, because otherwise it's like, well, there's no conflict. Like, we need to have that. There's conflict in this between, Serrano and
Joe Boo.
The pitcher. Eddie, between him and Eddie, and there's Dorn and Ricky, but that's really not, you needed the owner to be the heavy in this. So that's did
the
test
central
well.
conflict.
So, but yeah. So let's get into the cast a little bit. We got, of course, Tom Berenger. He's, one of the big names in this. He plays Jake Taylor, the washed up, older, past his prime catcher. We got Charlie Sheen, who plays...
I knew Tom Berenger.
Yep.
I hadn't seen the movie Platoon, but he was in Platoon, which was 3 years before. So he's obviously, that was a huge movie, won Best Picture, right? I think. So he's well known from that. And then he's been in other movies too, but...
Well, wasn't Charlie Sheen in
that was his
Platoon as well?
Is he also? Maybe I've actually never seen it, so.
Oh, really?
Wow.
That was also one that I got.
He might have been. That sounds right. So I don't know.
I think I'm going to go ahead and say he was. I can't find it in his bio right away here, but.
I've seen a lot of war movies, but I've actually never seen Platoon, so I can't speak too much about it.
I'm almost there. Let's see. I could have swore he was. Who the heck was the young guy in Platoon?
You're right. I'm sure you're right. So,
all right.
While you're looking that up, I'll bring up Eddie, the pitcher who throws 20 miles an hour. I don't even know what his name is, but he's so recognizable to me because he's in Hoosiers.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the dads, right, in Hoosiers, and then he's also in Basic Instinct. And I think that's one where you kind of forget that this is the same guy in Basic Instinct.
Forgot he was in Basic Instinct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's been a couple of movies that I love as well.
Yep. We got Corbin Burnson, which we mentioned. He's, the high-priced third baseman veteran, plays Roger Dorn here. Thought we didn't have any high-priced talent. Well, I forgot about Dorn because he's only high-priced. Margaret.
The one legitimate baseball player on the team when the season starts because he was a big
correct.
Free agent signing for them.
Mm-hmm. Margaret Whitten, she plays Rachel Phelps. She's the owner now who's trying to sink the team. James Gammon, I love as the manager. Lou Brown, just unshakable, just deadpan. He is just absolutely outstanding.
And his voice.
Yes.
I mean, just what a perfect voice for just an ornery. And the fact that he didn't even care to manage the team, he was happy to just be whatever he was selling tires or whatever he was doing. He's just
Tire World.
Like, what do you want me? I'm busy. I don't care.
Right. We got Renee Russo. This is one of her first roles. She plays the love interest of Jake in this. She's Lynn Wells. We got Wesley Snipes, another newcomer. Willie Mays Hayes, the fast, outfield presence. Another rookie. I'm assuming he was a rookie, right? Charlie Donovan, played by Charlie Cyphers. You mentioned Eddie Harris, the old pitcher. He was based on Gaylord Perry because he would put anything. Gaylord Perry was a well-known cheater, and of course he'd put anything on the ball to get more drop on his breaking ball. We got Dennis Haysbert. He plays Pedro Serrano.
Unmistakable voice, the voice of Allstate, which when those commercials started coming out, you didn't really remember. it was so much time had passed, and then you're like, holy shit, that's Pedro Serrano.
No, when those came out, it was immediate for me. This movie's
Really?
so ingrained, and I didn't know him. Like, I didn't know him from other stuff. Like, I didn't watch 24, right? That's what he was the president on.
I really haven't watched most of his shows. I know him from the Allstate commercials.
Right.
But then when they did the American Express commercial in the movie, like he's got a line in there that you can tell, oh, this guy, he sells stuff. Like that's the Allstate guy. Like you can hear it there.
Yeah. What I love about that Allstate commercial is how stiff Dorn is. Like
he's terrible.
And then of course
he's supposed to be the good actor.
The last one that I'm going to mention here is, of course, Harry Doyle, played by the incomparable Bob Uecker. The Hall of Famer Bob Uecker went in as a broadcaster, and I think I've mentioned it on here before, but if you have about 10 minutes, go to YouTube and listen to his Hall of Fame induction speech. It is just absolutely phenomenal. He has everybody in stitches. It's all the old hits for him, all the great lines that he always used on Johnny Carson, but they hit just as well at the Hall of Fame speech. It was absolutely wonderful. So I highly recommend checking that out on YouTube because he's an American treasure for sure. Did you have anything else on the cast?
And you mentioned earlier the I forget his name, but the janitor from Scrubs, which you love Scrubs, showing Scrubs. And so he's got this little part where he's one of those working class guys, and you see him. So there's always these scenes where it's like, what is it, like 4 different groups, and they have a comment on the team, and it's like the same comment every time, but a little bit, different because they're getting better as they go. Mm-hmm. And I love it when he says, like, these guys ain't so fucking bad.
Right.
He's great.
Yeah, and then you got the groundskeeper, the 2 groundskeepers, and then you've got like the fans,
guys in the stands.
Fans that are out in the stands, and you see them like in a diner a couple times or whatever. So
oh no, it's too high.
What do you mean? No, see the trajectory of the ball. God, that's a great argument that those guys have. So everybody's seen this movie, but I'm going to go through not even a synopsis, just a very, very quick summary here, just so
even though it's great, it's formulaic. So it's like you can tell the story pretty quickly. It's a sports movie with a formulaic ending, but it doesn't make it bad in any way.
No. So this is your typical underdog sports story of the Cleveland Indians baseball team. A losing franchise for years is taken over by the deceased owner's wife. The former showgirl wants to move the club to Miami. In order to get out of the team's lease with the city, she wants to put together a team of has-beens and never-will-be's in an attempt to drive attendance down so she can move the team. From the minor league manager to the recently released convict rookie pitcher, this ragtag group eventually comes together to beat the vaunted Yankees and win the pennant for the first time in decades. I don't think we need much more.
And they had to get... So you mentioned like the White Sox and Major League 2 or whatever. They had to get like approval from the Yankees like to use them in this. And what was it? Steinbrenner is from Cleveland or something. So like he was happy to like he said that like he had to approve it, and he was okay with it having them be the team that was used.
Okay.
As the nemesis in this movie. And I think he's from Cleveland. I think that was part of why, but I could be wrong on that.
All right. Well, and I don't think they portray the Yankees as horrible people by any means. It's just they're the Yankees. No. The Yankees are the gold standard. Yeah.
So, well, but at that time, in the late 80s, the Yankees were not necessarily the gold standard. They were not that good. Like when I was a Twins fan in the 80s, like, yeah, they're the Yankees, and I know about their history, but they didn't scare you any more than the Oakland A's were the gold standard at this particular time.
Right, but the vast majority of casual viewers to this movie would go with the Yankees as the team that needs to be beat, so right. That makes a lot of sense for them. Yeah, for sure you'd take the A's, as the team to beat at that time.
And the A's weren't in their division, so if you're going to keep it real to life, then that makes more sense too.
Exactly. So we're going to go through a couple things here. We're not going to go through the whole movie. Again, because everybody knows it so well. So I've got a couple things here that we're just kind of going to go through. So first on the list here is your favorite main character. So I put the 3 main characters as Jake, Willie, and Ricky. Brad, what say you? Who do you pick from that group?
So I am going to say Jake Taylor. I love all three of these characters. I almost picked Ricky, but Jake Taylor, he's just such a great mix. He's like Crash Davis. I mean, he's got a real player history to him. He's not just this rando off the street or out of the penitentiary. He has the romance story. He's very serious, but he's also very funny. He's so much like Crash Davis. He's the mentor of the team.
Quarterback.
And yeah, as a character, he's great. And he is the glue to the movie. And without him, you don't have a lot going on. Ricky is great. He's a close second to me. But when I really thought about who meant more, it was Jake. And Willie is great too. But to me, he seems like he has a little smaller part. I do love his arrival, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Like when he first shows up, it's great. What I like more is the relationship between Ricky and Willie. Watching it this time, I noticed I didn't remember, like, most of the scenes are Ricky Vaughn and Willie Mays Hayes, like they're best friends, like they've teamed up and they're together. And so I love that relationship. But as far as one character, I got to pick Jake.
Sure. Well, I'm going to go off your board a bit. I'm going Willie. And the reason is he comes in, like you say, when we first meet him, it's confidence upon confidence. And he just comes in, he owns the place. He just does what he needs to make the team. He's just so flamboyant all the time, so cocksure. You know, he bought 100 gloves, you know, because that's how many bases he's going to steal.
Every base is going to steal.
But at the same time, like we see the scene in the French restaurant, like he comes prepared, like he, you know, dresses nice. He's got a suit on and a tie, and like he wants to learn from, you know, a guy like Jake. You know, he's always so sure of himself, but at the same time, he's not going to take advice. You know, it's not like he's not going to take the advice of people.
I like that. Yeah, he's a good kid.
Yeah, you know, so I absolutely, and he's so funny. He's got so many great little tidbit lines, you know, that he just throws in that I think are phenomenal. So it's tough for me to pick between any three of these, but, you know, I'm going to go Willie on this one. So our next category here is our favorite minor character. So a few I threw out. You can take anybody you want, but I threw out Serrano, Lou, Harry Doyle, or any other, you know, character in this movie. Brad?
So I kind of went off your list. Yeah, there's a lot of them, but I had to pick Lou Brown, the manager of the team. I just love his don't give a shit attitude. It's just my favorite thing. He doesn't care what he says. He doesn't care who he says it to. He stands naked in front of the boss with his just horrible, you know, middle-aged old man body, like probably mine. He takes chances. He's kind of like, you know, so legend here in Minnesota is Tom Kelly. When Jack Morris wanted to pitch the 10th inning of the 91 game 7, and he was going to take him out, because of course you're going to take him out. And Jack Morris says, "You can't take me out. I've got this. I'm going to do it." And he said, "You know what? It's just a game. Go get him." Right. And if that's exactly what happened, that is like one of the greatest stories in sports. And he went out and he got him, and he did it. And that's what this manager reminds me of. That he lets the players do their thing. And so I love that. Now, it's really, really tough not to pick Harry Doyle, Bob Uecker, because everything he says is gold. And what I said, so we talked 2-3 months ago about dodgeball and how, you know, everybody loves Jason Bateman. And I feel like that whole thing just didn't quite sit right with me. Right. Harry Doyle is exactly what Jason Bateman should have been in dodgeball. Every line he says is legitimately great and funny. Which, I mean, he's more like the Gary Cole character instead, but
he still, combines the two so perfectly. He combines those two announcers perfectly, because he is the straight man.
We got one goddamn hit.
Yep. Well, and he has no help. Monty gives him no help. Anything to add, Monty?
He never talks.
He's not the best color man.
And that's like,
you know, I mean, it's just great.
But that's like Jason Bateman. He offers no help either. All he does is just repeat things.
Right.
So Harry Doyle is great. But I got to go with Lou Brown because he's got a little bit more, you know, he's part of the team. And so I got to go with the guys that are in the locker room for this question.
Sure. Well, 33 and a half minutes into this movie is when Harry Doyle makes his first appearance. And yep. Yeah, because you got to get all the way through spring training before they come to their first game of the season. So not that this movie was dragging, not that I didn't think this movie was amazing by any means for the first, first third of it. But when Harry Doyle comes in, it just gives it that shot of adrenaline. And much like you said, every single word out of his mouth is pure gold. And again, like we said earlier, like we loved him from Mr. Belvedere. So when he comes in and, he's got, he knows what he's doing. He's got cred, as a baseball announcer. So that's great. But he just kicks it up, to the highest level of comedy for these lines. And how many times did he probably want to say these things or maybe snuck a couple things in there? He was just amazing. And I love Harry. So that's my pick on this one.
I think it's funny too that you say, the movie wasn't dragging, because I actually wrote down during that first part, and it wasn't bad at all. Like, no, I love it, but I wrote it moves a lot slower than I remembered. Like that first half hour or so, like it's not slow, and I don't mean, and it sounds weird to say because I do not mean it in a bad way. I loved it. Like I'm going to talk about that scene actually coming up, but I just felt like it was slower than I remembered. Like maybe less comedy, more exposition.
Right, just
what you
setting everything
need.
up.
Like it takes its time to set up every character, which is great. So just I don't know. That's what it made me think of when you said that, because I did find it to be a little, less slapstick and more serious at first than I remembered.
Sure.
And that is not a knock in any way. That's a good thing.
So our next thing on the list here, what is your favorite scene other than the final game? You can't pick anything from the final game.
You go first.
All right. My favorite scene is the player introductions at spring training.
God damn it.
Well, I mean, to me, that's the only other answer. I
had two others, but.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah, it's mine too. Go ahead.
So, it's just outstanding. You've got, you got Lou, you got his coach Pepper, and you've got Charlie, the general manager. They're sitting outside, the Arizona property as these guys come in. And it is just such a wonderful, quick way to introduce these characters. You got Jake Taylor. Wish we had him 2 years ago. Well, I wish we had him 4 years ago. Then you got Serrano. You understand that, he's a refugee from Cuba because he wanted religious freedom and his religion's voodoo. You got Charlie Sheen comes in and the great line.
This fucking guy.
It's so good. And you got Dorn who pulls up in the sweet car. And then finally you've got Willie Mays pulls up in this Volkswagen Beetle that's pimped out to look like a
Rolls Royce.
And by this point, Charlie's just sitting in a chair. It's so hot. He's had enough of the heat already. Probably pretty sad about the team that he sees coming in. And Willie comes in just so chipper and happy and excited to be there. And of course, that's because we've come to find out that he has not been invited to camp. But he just plays it so strong and so confident that, of course, that's where he belongs. So that, to me, when you get to meet all of these characters that you learn to love, that to me is the scene for me.
All right, well, that's my answer too. I already said, look at this fucking guy, but this is where Serrano sees the thing. He says, hats for bats, keep bats warm. I love that line. And then Lou Brown says to Ricky also, we wear caps and sleeves at this level, son.
Right. And then he grabs his crotch.
And then he takes Dorn's contract, puts it on the ground, and pisses on it in front of everybody.
And just the way they look at each other while he's doing it. Like, there's no, it's just deadpan.
It's pretty impressive, too, because I wouldn't be able to just whip it out and pee on something like that in front of everybody. So that's an impressive move. My next two choices were, I love the restaurant scene, too, because you got Ricky in his tie and his no shirt and
baker in this thing.
Yeah, and it's fun because you have Ricky and Willie and Jake together kind of for the first time, and then you meet Rene Russo. I like that scene a lot and the way they interact. I also like the dinner party because it's just so damn awkward. Mm-hmm. And those characters aren't important; they don't lead to anything. But it's just the contrast between them and then the life that Jake has. But then you see Rene Russo and how she's back and forth and what she ends up leaving and I like that a lot too. So I considered those two, but then I said, no, it's the opening scene. It's a long scene, but it's too good. That's what I mean by it. It's that exposition. They give you all that information that you need, and that's part of what makes it so good. It's every character has their own story and their time, and I love that.
Yeah. Hey, stay away from her. What does Jake say after that? Suck my dick.
Oh, up in the when they're in the dinner party. I didn't know which scene you were referring to there. So
suck my dick. Well, and the other thing about the dinner
guy
party
is just such, and the guy is such a slime, but he's totally like in the right too. Like he has every right to like totally. I know, but you don't like him because you're not supposed to. But like he's not wrong. Jake is crashing and trying to steal his girlfriend, and so it's a shit move, and he's got the right to say whatever he wants to him.
Not
but
even
you still like Jake better anyway.
It's his fiance. Like they're
you're right. I know. They're
like, holy cow, man. Yeah, I'd be a little pissy with this guy too. The other great thing about the dinner party scene is that the elderly couple, the wife in that, she was in 16 Candles, another movie that we covered on this podcast. She was one of the grandmas in 16 Candles.
Really? Am I missing? Wow,
pretty sure, because I remember watching 16
I should
Candles,
know that. I mean,
and I had to go back.
My favorite movie of all time. So
when they met the oily bohunk,
at the dinner, right at the restaurant.
Yep, I think she was in that scene. So
not one of Sam's grandparents, but from the other side.
From the other side, I believe. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got it.
Those are the only two things I ever remember her from. So.
I also think, so you brought up Rene Russo and how she's the whole thing. This is in my notes on a different point, but like one thing I think is kind of lame in this movie is that she drives a car with a license plate that says Reed on it. I just think that's so dumb. Like what? I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong. When I saw that, I rolled my eyes. I'm like, oh my God, this is too. That's where you take a trope of a character and you went too far. Like that was so.
Right.
Did you agree?
That was the thing that I noticed this time for the first time ever. I had never noticed.
That's true.
That her license plate said Reed. So that was when I saw that, I was like, yay, I found something that I've never seen before out of how many, I've probably seen this movie, 15, 16 times for crying out loud, but never noticed that.
I didn't. And plus she drives such a shitty car. It's like, really? She's got a vanity plate on this Bug or whatever she's driving. That it just, I don't know. That's probably my only complaint about the whole movie.
Well, and the fact that she drives a car that a golf cart can keep up with. I thought that was a
bullpen cart. See those bullpen carts? They got to come back. That's
right?
baseball is that right there.
Oh my God. Well, and that again, like you go back to Bull Durham, like of course Jake knows every security guard at the arena, right? Like he just knows this guy by name and like, hey, my car's in this, and the guy's like, sure, Jake, take like that. To me is a Crash Davis move. Like Crash Davis knew everybody. He took care of everybody. It's just a veteran move.
It's really remarkable.
Yep.
How similar the characters are. It almost makes you wonder if they like ripped it off too much. But yeah, I don't care. It's two different movies, so
I don't think so. I think
if they did, they did. I don't care.
I think Crash is much more philosophical. He's more of a poet, more of a romantic. Whereas Jake is just he's a ball player. We talk about that scene between him and Lynn in the library. Where we kind of get a little bit of their history and his conquests with different women over the years. I think Jake is just your run of the mill, but he's a veteran, so he's been around the block.
Even though I like how he read Moby Dick, and like when she grilled him on that, he had the answer, and that's like what really turned around. That relation. See, that's the thing. That's like the side story, and that could be lame and like, why do we need this romance? But they play that well too. It's like I feel like it's just all done so well. Like you buy the romance, you buy the history there, and it's cute how they get back together, and so I just love it. I'm a sucker for all of it.
Well, and you say that her fiance is kind of a douche. I actually feel bad for the guy because Jake comes out of nowhere. She sleeps with Jake while and then comes back with him and is at the dinner party. Like, I mean, it's kind of like she's moving a little fast and quick with, whatever she wants to do.
That's character development There, you don't like him, and he really did nothing wrong at all. So
Nope, nothing at all.
too bad.
I did like how much did that younger wife want to just eat Jake up in that dinner party scene? Oh
Yeah,
my
I like that. Well,
word.
I think she did, but then they know so little about baseball that it's like but yeah, I see that too. Like she seems turned on by him.
Right. Yeah, she's ready to go in the back.
They're also just like he's an alien. They're just infatuated by this guy. It's like you think of like a professional athlete. Like most people would be like in awe and impressed, and they're just like they don't care because nobody cares about the Indians. It shows the
right. I didn't even know they had a team.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we got uniforms and everything. It's great.
That's why I like that scene, because there's a lot going on in that dinner party scene.
For sure. All right, we are going to dig into one of our favorite things that we do here on the show, and that is our favorite quotes. So what do you got? I'm going to kind of just go maybe chronologically through the movie and just hit some up. But what do you have to start?
Let's just go back and forth. So
okay.
This is early in the movie, but it may be my number one, and it may be the one I say a lot. This guy here is dead. Cross him off then.
That's the first line that I have written down.
I can't tell you how many times a week I say or hear that line from me or one of my friends. It's just so great.
Yes.
I hear is dead.
Well, and she is so, it just sets it up so perfectly for how cold she is towards this team, because it's just so matter of fact. Well, cross him off then. Obviously he's not available, so just cross him off. Like it's no big deal. The next one I have on my list here, one of the guys that the installers that I work with at work, when I call him every once in a while, he'll just answer the phone. Tire World. I mean, I just love Lou. And then
Lou Brown.
When Charlie asked him hey, how would you like to manage the Indians this year? Oh, I don't know. Hey, I tell you what, Charlie, I got a guy on the other line who's wondering about a pair of white walls. I'll call you back. Like, he just doesn't give a shit. It's just outstanding.
A lot of mine, so we've mentioned a few already, so I try to keep them. The ones I've already said, I'm not going to repeat.
Sure.
And the ones that are in maybe a scene later, I'm not going to say now. But a lot of mine, that means, are from Harry. And one of my favorite ones is Vaughn, a juvenile delinquent in the offseason.
Yes. That was one that I remember, like, Bruce. Like, to me, that line and Joe are, like, for some reason synonymous. So I don't know if he used that line or, like, brought it up a lot, but I always think of Joe when I hear that line. And it is
Joe is from our class, and we're going to see him in a week and a half. We're going to have to ask him about that then. Remember that.
And actually, when this airs, we will have just come back. We've had a wonderful time at our class reunion. That's true. In real world time or podcast time. Yes, that is, and he says it with such like joy in his voice, like Vaughn, like it's just like and
like no big deal.
Yeah, it just throws it out there, making his major league debut. And then of course the other one, which is, I think everybody has used this while watching a game. And you see a pitch go wide and just a bit outside. Like that is.
Well, that's my next one. But actually, I have ... Ball 4, ball 8. How can these guys lay off pitches that close? The whole quote, if you extend it out, is even better.
Didn't he say something about how they're getting screwed, too? I think
he says it after that, probably.
One of my favorite lines, and this comes from Willie, and it's how he says it that catches me, is so funny every time. He's at training camp. He gets hauled out the first night. The guards come in, take his bed off, and put him out in the parking lot. And the next morning, they're doing races, and he wakes up to the gunshot of the race starting, and he sits up in bed so quick, and he looks around, and just the way he says, shit, like he's so amazed. Shit, I've been cut already? I think he delivers that line so perfectly.
And that brings up a fun fact we didn't say earlier, too. All his scenes where he's running are in slow motion because he just wasn't very fast. Wesley Snipes is not a fast runner. And so they did that on purpose to make him look faster.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just assumed it was,
here's another Harry. This is Harry and the great color commentator back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor's a convicted felon, isn't he? Doesn't say here. Well, he should be.
Yes. Yes.
I think I have the wrong. It's not Taylor though. It's it's Haywood.
Haywood.
I wrote the wrong name. Haywood is a convicted felon, isn't he? Yes. Well, he should be.
Yep. And I will stick with a Haywood quote here. When he comes up to bat in one of his at bats, he looks at Jake and goes, "Hey, Jake, how's your wife and my kids?" When I was 12 years old, or however old I was when I first saw this movie, I didn't catch that line right away. I didn't understand that line. But once I got a little older, that is such a great line from Haywood.
There's one where Lou is telling the group, something they have to do. I can't remember what specifically it is, but Dorn goes, "Even me?" And he goes, "Even you, Dorn."
Yes. That's what he's saying. She's gonna get rid of the rest of the players,
he's gonna get cut.
Yep.
Even me?
I'm gonna go with a scene in spring training here when Harris is getting into a Serrano, and Serrano's a voodoo guy, and Harris is a Christian, and Harris's line here is, "Are you telling me that Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?" I think that's just such a great line. Because of course, Serrano needs Joe Boo so that he can, hit the curveball. So that's why he's, praying to Joe Boo. What else you got there?
The only two else I have listed here I've actually mentioned already. That's all we got. One goddamn hit. I love that. And then I guess there's only one thing left to do. Win the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
So the rest I have would come from what we're going to talk about next, but if you have any others.
I just got a couple here. One of the other great lines, one of the early lines from Harry Doyle, when he announces Die Hard Night, free admission to anyone who was alive during the last pennant. Just the fact they call it Die Hard Night. And again, he's so cheerful.
You can hear him. Die Hard Night. I mean, he's like an announcer. He's so happy and selling it, even when it's just a ridiculous line.
Yep. Well,
you could have had more movies.
Oh God, but this is his milieu. Like this hits him right in. Oh yeah,
obviously it's a perfect character
for sure. For him. Going to a line here again, reminiscent of Crash Davis and talking to the hitters when Jake is talking to Rexman in the game where they need to get that last out. And he makes up some story to Rexman about seeing his wife at the pre-lounge last night. And then, of course, Rexman pops it up. And Jake's line of, "Uh-oh, Rexy, I don't think this one's got the distance."
Oh, yeah, I did have that. Well, before that, wasn't it something about wearing his panties on her head or something?
Yeah. Saw your life at the pre-lounge last night. Hell of a dancer. I'm sure that guy she's with was a hell of a good friend and all. But tell me, what was she doing wearing her panties on his head? Yeah, that was a good one. And then the last one I have before we get to the final scene here is the scene where Dorn's wife comes into the bar to hit on Charlie. Oh, yeah. I did not recognize her at all when she came in.
I think as a kid, I didn't even realize that was her at all. And you have to piece it. I might not have even pieced it together that well later because I'm a kid. And she looks so different. Yep. And you only saw her in that one scene. So it's not like she's a well-known character and that she's a very minor character.
But her hair is totally different in the other scene. She's very conservatively dressed. Now she walks in this dress that looks like it's just amazing. But when she lays that line on Charlie about how, you're the sexiest thing I've ever seen, the way he looks away from her, puts his finger up to the bartender, just goes, "The check." Like, I just love how he asks for the check in that scene. He does it so wonderfully, so subtly. So that was the last one I had before we get to our final scene. So we are going to dig into the final scene. One thing before that, again, the wily old veteran Jake here, Serrano looking to sacrifice a live chicken before the big game, and Jake comes through. He delivers him one whole chicken.
It's not a live chicken.
It's not a live chicken, but he offered up a whole chicken, and it was from KFC. So I think that's just a great veteran move on his part.
And it turns out Serrano didn't need it anyway because he said, "Fuck you, Jobu. I do it myself."
That's right. That's correct. So this
The beginning of the scene.
Yeah.
It's like when the movie starts.
Yeah.
So it starts with the flyover and it's Cleveland Stadium. The flyover of the stadium and the music that's playing. It's like, here we go. It is just getting your hair standing up right there, and I love it. And if you've seen the movie, because then it's if you hadn't seen it before, it's still great. But like if you've seen it, it just gets you ready for that. We could do the whole show on just this, and we're going to do half the show on this probably.
Well, and there's 26 minutes left in the movie when this scene starts, so it eats up a whole, like at least a quarter of the film here. This is where you see the team has really come together. Eddie, the starting pitcher, out in the bullpen, he's warming up, and who's at his feet while he's warming up? None other than Jobu. So him and Serrano, they've buried the hatchet, through the big win streak, and them, making their way to this play-in game. So that's, a great way to start it. And the music is awesome. And then of course you've got Eddie throwing just meatballs up there. I can't believe it's 0-0 going into the 7th inning before the Yankees finally get one, to go over the fence, because that guy, and that's another thing too. Harry would call out like, Vaseline ball hit to the gap or whatever. It's just great that he knows exactly what Eddie's throwing out there. So
being scoreless that long too. This game reminds. So by the way, we have an episode on the 1991 Minnesota Twins where we went into great detail and totally nailed that season and that World Series. But like in Game 7, obviously it's scoreless to the 10th inning. But we talked about how in the 5th inning, Jack Morris struck out a guy with 2 guys on base, and he just pumps his fist running off the mound. And that's like when the game truly starts. And that's like this game. They just, we cut way into the game because it's 0-0. And you get that home run, and it looks bad. But then Dorn gets that hit in the 7th to start the rally. And that is awesome. And then, here's something I had never noticed before. You probably didn't notice this. When they show the faraway shot of him rounding first, it's clearly a double. It looks more like Lou Brown rounding the base than it does Corbin Burnson.
Really?
You'd have to go back. It's crazy how I had to back it up and look again because it's crazy how bad that guy. There's a big mustache or something, and it's just weird that's what they used as a double. But anyway. Him getting the hit because he's such a prima donna, and but he's going to come through. He's going to come through when he needs to, and he gets it all started. I love that.
That's the one thing he can do is he is a hitter. He's not a fielder, which is weird to not have a fielder at the hot corner. But earlier in the game, like he has his redemption, like he has that diving stop into the hole, and gets up and guns the guy out at first base. So it's like everybody's has all come together and fix their deficiencies in order to win
all this has been set up because earlier in the movie he blew a play on purpose that cost Vaughn his first win when he was pitching great.
Could have.
So it's all just like that was a foreshadowing to what happens here, and all these things have been set up so awesomely.
Yep. So then after Dorn gets on base, they're down 2-0, bottom of 7. Now Serrano comes up, and of course I love the pitcher for the Yankees because he's just smiling every time he throws a breaking ball because the whole league knows, right? Like, just throw 3 straight breaking balls and he's going to go down swinging. He can't hit.
It makes you wonder all season long. Did Serrano ever get a hit? How did he keep his job? Because they never showed that he could ever hit one until this very moment. So he literally never got a hit based on the way they developed this character.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Yep. And then, of course, he shuns Jobu, says, I'll do it myself. And then, of course, it's just great because he comes in and they got the cameras, coming in tight on him as he's taking his practice swings in the box. And the pitcher, he's smiling from ear to ear up on the mound. He's just going to throw another, easy curveball in there. And it's not that Pedro hits a home run. It's that he hits it completely out of the ballpark. Yes. And then proceeds to run the bases while holding the bat.
That is the favorite part, is he holds the bat as he's running around the bases.
Yeah. And
he's so happy.
And then when he comes in and he touches home plate, Dorn gives him the high five and he says Joe Boo. I'm assuming that's Dorn saying Joe Boo to Serrano, but in fact, Joe Boo had nothing to do with it. Serrano did it himself,
That scene, when he hits that home run, this is where it becomes such a great sports movie, because the shots, the fan shots in this movie and the excitement of the fans is so real. Like, I am a huge sports fan. I know what it's like to be at games. I know what looks fake and what looks real. It looks so real, and I can totally feel every fan's excitement in that stadium when he hits that home run, because I've been there and I've been at those games. And I just love how effective and they do it, because that's what can set a sports movie from good to bad. And it's so real, and it makes you feel what you're supposed to. And I just love that. This moment when he hits a home run is just like, wow, that's great.
Right. Well, and they did a great job, like you say, of the wide shots in this movie. Of showing a full stadium, like at the beginning of the scene where they fly overhead, and then of course, in the ninth inning, top of the ninth inning here, we've got Harris, who walks the bases full after a couple hits.
It looks like he's throwing 50 miles an hour.
Yep. And I love how Harry goes, and now he's starting to show signs of fatigue. Now he's starting to show signs of fatigue. The guy has pitched 9 2/3 innings, and he's throwing cupcakes up there, 8 2/3 innings. And now, as the guy comes up, now they're going to start getting Vaughn up. Like, he's already got 2 men on, and so it's like, now you're finally going to get Vaughn up. So Lou comes out to the mound after the bases are full, and Haywood's up to coming up, and he takes the ball from Eddie, and Lou looks at the bullpen and goes, "Give me Vaughn." And Jay goes, "You want Vaughn?" Well, of course he wants Vaughn. He's the only other pitcher on this team. We've only seen Eddie,
we'll never meet too,
and we've only seen Ricky. There is nobody else in the bullpen. So of course we're taking Ricky.
As a baseball fan, you might say that's pretty lame, because he's been a starting pitcher. But in the playoffs, in a game like this, they do use starters out of the bullpen when necessary. So, like, even that's not a stretch, because after I watched, I'm like, wait a minute, Ricky Vaughn, he's a reliever. But no, he's not. He's been starting games. Mm-hmm. But in a game like this, he's still going to have that opportunity if they think that he's the best guy.
Right. And now this is Ricky's redemption, because the only 2 times he's faced Haywood has put it into the seats. So this is where we start one of the greatest sports moments in a movie ever, is Vaughn's introduction.
When we did our draft on greatest sports scenes, I picked this scene, and you brought up it's not just him, it's the hum. Mm-hmm. The hum of the sound as the stadium is pretty quiet. And then that bullpen door opens, and then it just explodes, and he walks in. I mean, come on.
Yes.
So great.
You get chills.
That's also realistic, because every reliever now, they all got their song, and the stadium goes nuts for them. So it was like ahead of its time almost, because back then I don't think it was that common, but it's so great. And as a Minnesota sports fan, you just totally know that feeling of pent up energy and excitement. Like, this is our chance, and we're going to do it. Mm-hmm. We usually don't do it, but this is it. We're going to do it this time.
Yeah, but our closers, we had some pretty damn good closers on some pretty damn good teams.
We always have.
When he comes in, the eruption of the crowd, and again, the camera works, going around the stadium. I did notice that not a lot of good-looking people in Cleveland in the stands. But, I love the rendition. The female singing this song is excellent. Everybody in the stadium singing along to it. And it's just
got the old scoreboard with the the low tech graphics of Wild Thing, and
it's just deafening sound, and it's just outstanding. And he's up there just throwing gas in his warm up pitches. And then of course we've got the scene where Dorn.
But there's a line here too, though. Before that, Lou Brown's on the mound still, and he says, "You're my man. Go get him, kid." That's a great line, and that gets him, pumped up and motivated to do it.
And what Jake tells him too, this is the out you've been waiting your whole life for.
That's right.
That's a pretty damn good line to pump up your pitcher.
the Doran part is because they're all looking. Oh shit!
Yeah, you're right. And of course, we love this line not because of the unedited version, but because of the edited version that was on TV
I love
for a
it for
while.
both.
And Doran comes up. Of course, he knows his wife told him that she slept with Ricky, and this is the first time they've faced each other since that. Doran comes up, takes the ball from him. Let's cut through the crap, Vaughn. I only got one thing to say to you. And, Ricky's like, oh, God, he's going to, like, punch me in the face. And, of course, Doran's line is, strike this motherfucker out. But on edited television...
he doesn't say anything. He just gives him that head nod. That's great, too. He's nervous. He's worried. But he gets it. I got to do this. And it's going to work out.
Yeah. But on the unedited version, or the edited version on television... they put this absolutely horrible sound dub in where it's strike this guy out. And it was so funny. I mean, I would watch the TV version just so I could catch that line at the end of the movie. It was so
wondering,
bad.
So your Uncle Jerry, his video of it, it was the not unedited, it wasn't the edited version then,
No,
right?
these were all off of HBO. So these are all unedited movies.
So you learned about it later on with the guy.
Yeah. It's so bad, but at the same time, so great. So what I love here,
great line.
What I love here is as Haywood comes up and Ricky's got his back to the plate, and then he throws the ball into his glove, and he turns around and he got the guitar riff just one last time. To dun 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 dun, like that is it's so good. I love it. And he comes up and he's got that 1,000-yard stare. And Harry introduces Haywood, American League Triple Crown winner, 341, 48 home runs with 128 RBIs. Like, those are pretty damn good numbers. And, he steps in just this mountain of a man who basically owns Ricky. And I'll let you take it from there.
Well, then you get the great line by Lou Brown watching him. Is it after the second pitch?
I think it's after the second pitch.
Curveball, Ricky. Give him the heater.
Yes.
I mean, that's one of the greatest lines in the movie too. That's another one everybody instantly knows. Mm-hmm. And it's the manager believing in his guy again and knowing that even though this guy is going to pound fastballs if he can, but he can't catch up to it right now. He's ahead of him. He's too fast.
Well, and the first pitch is 97 miles an hour, and we see the gun, the radar gun, and then the next one, 99. And on that last one, high and tight, 101 miles an hour. Nobody's catching up to that pitch. Nobody's. How do you hit that pitch? Like, it's a perfect pitch. And of course, Haywood throws his bat, throws his helmet down, and everybody just goes nuts. So Ricky's got his, redemption in this movie. So, that is absolutely
that's a
awesome.
great scene,
mm-hmm.
But it's not the end of that scene because they haven't won anything yet. So we got the scene you picked.
Right. So now we got the Indians coming up, bottom of the ninth inning, tie ball game, 2-2. So, of course, we've got, I think, is there 2 outs at this point? Or was...
Yeah, I think the first 2 guys get out, and then that's Willie Mays Hayes beats out the grounder just barely, and that's what extends the inning.
But again, that's what his manager told him in spring training. With your speed, you should be putting them on the ground and legging them out. So that's exactly what he does.
Set up.
And he makes it to first. Now, one thing in this, I don't think he never rounded first, but he does turn towards the infield.
Oh my God, I noticed that same thing.
Yep. But he never rounded.
You're not supposed to do that, right?
He stayed on the line, though. So you can turn.
I know.
But when I was younger, I was like, hey, couldn't he tag him out there? But no, he never rounded. He never went up the, towards the infield. So he comes back, and of course, he takes off his batting gloves, putting on his, his black gloves that he's been wearing all year. And Haywood, asks him, where you going meet? About 90 feet. He's got to steal that base. That's what he's known for. And then we got the old crafty veteran, Jake Taylor, coming up, 2 outs, tie ball game.
Speaking of old veteran, I love that his helmet is a Gary Carter, no ear flaps on either side helmet. That's awesome.
And he doesn't have a hat on underneath either. He just, he takes his hat off and plunks that thing right on his head, so he's definitely old school. And, So of course we're waiting. Of course, we didn't say which pitcher's in for the Yankees now. This is Duke, who leads the league in saves and hits batsmen. And nose hairs. When this guy sneezes, he looks like a party favor. He threw at his own son in a father-son game. So he's out there, so he's obviously dominating. And you got Jake. He comes up, and there's a throw over to first, and then the first pitch to Jake, Willie takes off, and I just love the music in this. And you've got Lou yelling like, "Come on!" and Ricky's in the dugout going, "Come on, Ricky!" Like, I just love that, "Come on, Ricky!" Like, everybody's just on the edge of their seat. Is he gonna make it? Because this could be the game. Like, if he gets thrown out, we're going to, well, it wouldn't be the game, but we're going to the 10th inning. So that is awesome. And then Jake, his signal to Lou as far as, what he's going to do. And I love the bunt signal where he grabs his nuts. First time I saw this, I didn't see this coming. No clue that this play was going to happen. I thought, he goes up, he points to the outfield like he's going to hit a dinger, just like Babe Ruth.
That would be a terrible ending. That would be just too obvious and formulaic. So yeah, that's the thing.
But I didn't see it coming.
This is all set up too. So Dave, who I mentioned earlier, said it's the greatest sports movie ever. He talked about how there's that scene early in the movie where he thinks he's alone in the stadium and he has a dream about winning the game and hitting, and that comes back here too. Every single one of these events has been like foreshadowed in some way. It's so good.
Yeah. So of course, he points to the stands. The Duke gives him some chin music, knocks Jake down. Jake gets back up again, points to the stands, and I love the shot of Lou in the dugout. Just, it's just smiling. That smile. He just loves it. It's almost like Tom Kelly, like, it's just a game. Let's see if this, stunt works. And, pitch comes in, Willie takes off, and it is the worst bunt motion in the history of baseball.
It's a swinging bunt. It's not really a bunt, but
no. And of course, Jake starts, chugging down to first. You just want to yell, "Unleash the plow!"
I love his face as he is running. That is one of my favorite parts too. The pure just determination and the helmet flying off. That's another thing that's great about this. Mm-hmm. He's so damn serious, and he's gonna make it. And I love that visual of his face. He's just never gonna not beat this out.
Well, and to go back to when Jake signaled the dugout, and then Lou gives the call out to third base, and I just love Willie on second. Like, he's got this smirk on his face, and he kind of rubs across like, "I got it. Yep, let's do it. Like, I understand everything that's supposed to happen. We're gonna do a bunt and run, basically." So he's full bore from second, rounds third, and he comes sliding in, throw into the home plate, and he slides feet first and drags his back foot over the plate. Like, if you would have came in wide head first, it wouldn't even been close.
Seems like that's how most guys would slide, yes.
Yes.
But he's not a professional. He's a guy off the street, so it actually kind of fits.
But if there's anybody who knows how to steal a base and who knows how to run the bases, it's this guy. This is what he's done all year long. Did we ever see how many bases he stole? We just saw him hammering the gloves up.
Well, you'd have to pause it and count. They show all those gloves on his wall, but you'd have to stop and count them. So who knows?
Yeah, I never.
This is another great line too. So Harry's had all these lines, and he's this downtrodden announcer, but just the way he delivers, "The Indians win it." Oh my God, the Indians win it! It's goosebumps are just nonstop in the scene.
Well, and then of course
everybody grabs Vaughn. I love the way after he punches him, he grabs him by the back of the head and he just pulls him in for that hug. And it's just like they're square and they're even, and it's so good.
Well, and so everybody comes to the field, right? Like fans, the players, everybody's hugging, having this moment. And then Jake looks up in the stands and he sees Lynn up there. And Lynn has her hands together. And I always thought that as she put her hand up to show that her finger didn't have the ring on it anymore, I think she took it off in that moment. I think she was waiting to see if they won or lost. And if they lost, she was going to get married, but she just wants to be with the winner. You look at the way she holds in her hands. It looks like she slides the ring off as she holds her hand up. So
that kind of ruins the movie. If that's, I don't think so. He's not that. She realizes he's the right guy.
Yeah. Well, and then the last thing that I wrote down, and I absolutely love this, is as everybody's in the big group coming together, Willie and Ricky are in front and they slap each other 5 and then point at each other as they fade to black. I think that is just such a great moment, a great sports moment, guys high-fiving. I think that was awesome the way they did that at the end. I
already said I love that it ends there and doesn't give you the final resolution. It just lets you enjoy this moment, because that's what happens is you enjoy that moment and they could get swept in the next round. But nobody wants to see that. So you get all of that. They beat the villain. They won the pennant. That's what Cleveland needed. Even if they lost in the next round, they still did something amazing. And I love that. And we brought up already how it's just, you think of it a comedy first and foremost, but it is such a great sports movie. The lines are so great. The depictions of the game and the fans are just top notch. It's well paced. It's realistic in almost every way. I mean, it's not. This team would never win, but you know what I mean by the way they show the game. It's realistically done. It's got great development of characters and the perfect climactic scenes. It was even better than I remembered watching it. I hadn't watched it in several years, so I knew I loved it, but I give it more credit as a legitimate good movie now than where I just thought it was more of a comedy before. So it was awesome. Loved it
for sure, and I'm the same way. I'll go back to it every once and again. I think I watched it again maybe a year ago or so and just thought it was just as awesome as I remembered it. I love that this movie kind of kicked off, Wesley Snipes and Rene Russo, that was their first role in a movie that really took off.
You look back and think there's these big stars in it, but these were they became stars later. And that's right. Cool too, to look and see. Right.
And Dennis Haysbert, same thing, and Neil Flynn. It's just fun to see these people before they, became big stars. So we are going to wrap this up tonight. I've got a top 5 that we're going to get into for music in sports.
You're forgetting one thing.
But before we get into that, this is all predicated and because of the great walk-in that Rick Vaughn has to Wild Thing in the final scene of this movie. So for tonight, before we get into our top 5, we picked each other's walk-up song. So I'm kind of interested to see what Brad picked for me, and I've got something that I hope that he agrees with that I picked for him. So Brad, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first, because you picked this, so you should go second.
Okay.
We don't usually do this, and hopefully our episode doesn't get taken down. But we're going to introduce the song by just playing a quick clip of it. The sound may not be great, but we're gonna try it out. So Gifford, this was such an easy choice for me. I'm assuming you know what I'm going to pick, but you never know. So
I'm not hearing it.
You're not hearing it?
Nope.
What? You mean you didn't hear the song?
Yeah. What was it?
Was blasting right. All right, that didn't work out then.
Okay.
It was Pour Some Sugar on Me by Def Leppard.
Very good. I will take that.
I can't imagine.
I was playing a lot of walk-up songs or songs that I loved last night too. I was hoping that would be it. The other one I would have really enjoyed was the Humpty Dance. That was the other one.
Oh, yes. Well, actually, my backup plan was, and it's not so much as quite of a banger in that sense as those, but the chorus to Friends in Low Places, Given Your Love of Garth Brooks. And it would get the fans happy. Yep. That was my backup. But Pour Some Sugar on Me is your number one thing. So that was an easy pick.
Thank you.
You know what? I bet this didn't work because I'm wearing these stupid ear pods tonight. And I bet that's why the sound didn't come through.
That might be. Well, then we'll be good.
So that was a fail on our first try of that. But at least it doesn't mean I'm going to get sued by Def Leppard. So
right. Well, I will give it a shot here, see if mine comes through. You are obviously a huge music guy. So what I could pick from is so massive. But this is one I
But you
picked.
got to pick that thing that has the right pump up sound to it.
Yep. And I think this has a great, first beat, like pumps you up. It's right in your wheelhouse as far as something that you love. So let's see if this will come through and tell me what you think. Make sure my volume's up. All right.
I would have never expected that, but
No?
I am a giant XS fan, and at this time of this movie, even more so.
Yep.
That's a great call. I would have never expected that pick, but that's a great choice because the thing is, I've actually thought about this before.
Yeah.
But you don't know a lot of my other stuff, so
I don't.
there's a song by Rage Against the Machine, "Sleep Now on the Fire," that's like the one I think of a lot. If Pete were here, we were going to do this for him too.
Yep.
And I know what song I would pick for him, and I think he would agree. Did you pick one for Pete?
No, I didn't. No. What do you got?
Well, I don't have to shoot up. It would be "I Am Superman" by REM.
Yep. That would be a good one for him.
Which is one I've thought of as well, but he loves it so much. And he's talked ad nauseum, as he would say, on the show about how we listened to that going to every basketball game in high school. So I think that would be his choice. I love your pick. It's not what I expected, but it's a good pick. And it does. I can imagine walking up to the plate to that and just being like, here we go.
I see you as Ricky coming out of the bullpen. And that hits, and you make that long walk across the outfield, or as a batter coming up. Either way.
Yeah, but I feel like that would work as a batter. As a reliever, I think I need something a little more hardcore.
Hard hitting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it hits, and I know that's a huge, band for you, and that album.
It is.
I kind of went through REM, and, I was like, I couldn't find.
Well, they don't have I Am Superman is a great one. They don't have a ton of other great ones for that particular thing.
Or U2, I kind of looked through U2 a bit, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna look and see what NXS has, and thought, that's a good one for Brad. So
that is a good one. Well done.
So tonight we are gonna pick our top 5 best uses of music in a sports scene. So I will go.
The way you wrote this, the way I did it, it's not in a sports movie, it's in a scene. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure, because that's why I had a lot of trouble doing this, but I did come up with 10.
Yep.
But they're all integral to a scene, either in a sports movie or a sports movie are being played. I think they all fit the category. So.
Right. So
this is a very specific category.
Yes, very specific. And I thought it would be easier to put this together, and it was more difficult than I thought. So I'm gonna go with this movie. I think that walk in from Ricky, the stadium going absolutely crazy. It's second to none for me. So I am going to take Wild Thing, Major League, Ricky's entrance.
Well, I figured you would pick that, but I was hoping maybe you had a different one in mind, and then I could get it. All right. Well, my second one is pretty damn good still. It is a movie we've talked about. It is one of my all-time favorite movies, one of the best 80s movies of all time, and that is You're the Best Around in The Karate Kid during the montage of the tournament. So I think that's a pretty good backup pick.
Well, and the great thing about that is, where else do you know that song from? I mean, that song is that scene. It's
iconic, and it is one and the same with the Karate Kid, that scene.
Right. So great pick. I've got it on my list here. All right. I am going to go with Rocky III's opening montage, Survivor. I'm going Eye of the Tiger to start that movie. Every time I hear that song, I see the part where Mr. T's training by himself, and he starts going hard into the heavy bag with just, back and forth, rights and lefts. And it's to the beat. And so when I hear that song, I see that opening montage. So that's what I'm going with for my number 2 pick.
All right, so a couple of my choices are more like not a specific song, but the theme, but that particular instrumental is so iconic and
Mhm.
perfect for that scene. And maybe, and this came up when we did this draft on scenes. Pete picked this one. The theme, dun 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 dun, when Roy Hobbs hits the home run in the natural and the lights
Yes.
burst. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
that may not be a song with lyrics, but
It's music.
that song fits that moment
Mhm.
better than anything, and it's such a great scene. So that's what I'm picking.
Right. That's a great one. Um, my third pick is from a movie that is not about sports, but it has a sports scene in it. I am
Uh-oh.
going with Playing with the Boys, Top Gun's
Oh,
volleyball scene.
okay.
Again,
I did not have that one on my list.
when you hear that song, that's not a popular song. So if you hear it, I have it on playlists, and whenever it comes up, I absolutely love it. And that's, of course, what I think of when I hear that song.
That's a good one. I missed that one. I can already tell you're going to blow this vote away. Even though my list is going to be really good, you're going to win easily with these picks so far.
Well, thank you.
So I'm going to go with not Eye of the Tiger, but I'm going to go with the original Rocky and the song "Gonna Fly Now," and which again, there are no words, right? I mean, it's the Rocky theme.
It's the Rocky theme,
and
right?
It is, yeah, but it's called "Gonna Fly Now."
Eye
Eye of the Tiger is great. That's Rocky right there.
It's hard, yeah.
I'm gonna take that.
Hard to beat that, for sure. Okay, well, next on my list, I'm gonna go "I'm All Right" from Caddyshack.
But wait a minute, that's not in a sports scene.
They're on the course hitting balls, and that's when Judge Smales gets hit in the nuts with a ball. Yeah,
that was just the opening when Danny Noonan's getting ready in the morning and biking to work.
Oh, what? Oh,
yeah,
I've
got a better one.
Oh, I'm thinking of the other one.
I've got a better one from
All right, you go. I missed my turn. That's in honor of Pete right there.
All right, well then, I mean, I don't have a lot of choices, so I'm just going to take this one anyway, since I'm going to take Any Way You Want It by Journey from Caddyshack. So what?
Yep.
So let's dance.
That's my bad. Yep, you're right. Okay, I got that one wrong. That's a great one. All right.
Out of Rodney Dangerfield's golf bag. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yes. Yep. Where he rips the cover off.
Any way you want it.
Yep. Dang it. That's my fault. All right. So I'll put what am I up to? This is my fourth still.
Yep.
All right. So when we talked about Foo Fighters and one of my favorite Foo Fighters songs, and that is There Goes My Hero in Varsity Blues.
Well, or Not Another Teen Movie. I have it down for both.
Oh, sure. Yep, you can have it for both, but I think of Varsity Blues.
That is a sports scene.
When they're playing, it's a football game that they're kind of a montage of a football game.
Well, that was my next pick. I should have picked it instead, but that was that was a good choice.
Yep.
Well, I am not gonna win, so I'm gonna pick the national anthem by Frank Drebin, Enrico Palazzo, and the Naked. Or maybe that'll give me the win.
That is a great. Is that your last pick?
That's my last pick.
That is a great last pick. Oh my god!
Technically, the sports haven't started, but it's at a sports.
It's at a sporting event. So, yes, we are going to allow that for sure. That is a great pick.
I thought that was a good one.
That is so good. Okay, so my last one. Again, every time I hear this song, this movie I think of, and this scene I think of, it is Werewolves of London from The Color of Money when Vince plays Moselle in the pool hall. It's, to me, an iconic scene of him just cleaning the table off and just acting a fool. But it's just so awesome, and he's so cool in that scene. So I'm gonna take that one.
already brought up Jim from Children of the '80s once tonight, but if I don't know if you listen to their Tom Cruise episodes, he loves The Color of Money, and they mention that
Oh,
songs.
love that movie.
I have never actually seen that movie. I need to watch it
Oh
someday.
yeah.
But I heard so much about it from there that it's like I feel like it totally fits in with you picking it right there. So
Yep. Well, and I rewatched that just maybe about a half a year ago. I love that movie. I think that was another one that was on the tapes from Uncle Jerry. That is, and the players in it are just awesome. You know, the main actors, and it's a Martin Scorsese film, so you're not really going to go wrong that way. So, you got any others?
I have a couple.
Okay.
So this one would have been more of a deep cut, but I specifically remember it. I absolutely love the movie The Fighter with Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale. And there is a scene where I believe it's after Christian Bale's, because he's all fucked up in this movie. And I think he gets clean and they're like really starting. It's like a training montage almost, like a Rocky thing. And they play the song Back in the Saddle by Aerosmith. And it just hits so hard in that scene. So that was one I had. I figured it was a little more specific to me. People aren't going to know that one anyway, but it's great.
Sure.
And they're training. So it's a training. I had my hero. I had actually the only other one I have, because you picked the other ones I had. The only other one I have is the theme from Chariots of Fire, which I've never actually seen that, but everybody knows the song. And I gave it honorable mention for being used in Vacation. Running to Wally World. So
absolutely. Well, and I've only got a couple more. In Bull Durham, there's a montage where they play center field. So that's a great.
I saw that when I was trying to find stuff. I don't even remember it though. So I didn't want to pick it.
It's just through a montage of games, and they're out playing. So that to me was a good one. Yeah. I picked Thunderstruck again when I was trying to fill out my list from Varsity Blues. That's another game. I think it's one that they lose after the strip club. But great use there. One that I love, Rock of Ages, is Randy's walk-up song in Balls of Fury, a ping pong movie. I just love that so much because he's coming out and he's acting so hard, but he's just this fat, out of shape guy. The Def Leppard Rock of Ages? Yep. Yeah. Awesome. It's absolutely great. And then the last one I had, I'm surprised you don't have this one, Brad. You spoke about how this is a movie with an absolutely great soundtrack. That is Tin Cup. And I picked the Double Bogey Blues when I think after he has to carry his own bag for the back nine of the qualifying tournament, I believe Double Bogey Blues is playing. That movie did. I thought about it, and I know I have the soundtrack and love it, but I couldn't place like a specific song with a specific scene, so I couldn't do it. But yes, that was definitely on my radar, and I thought there would be one, but I couldn't think of one. So sure. All right. Well, hey, great job tonight. Right. I appreciate you watching this. Not like it was a hard assignment by any means for us to go back and watch this. And I think it holds up, pretty well. And it wasn't your assignment. It was the fans' assignment. Oh, that's true. It was voted on by... So, that's true. We thank them for picking it, and it was a great time, and hopefully they enjoyed what we did here. So, all right. Yeah, let us know on the socials what you thought. See if we did it justice. Yes. Hey, Gifford. Yeah. You know which group ain't so fucking bad? That would be Preacher Row. That's right. These guys ain't so fucking bad. Let's listen to them. Yes, we should. Well, thank you, folks, for listening. Talk to you next time. All right. Bye. Bye. No one's here to comfort me.
sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your song is gone. 7 steps and it will be my last. Next time, tell me on my back. I turn and I look to you. I'm scared, but there's nothing I can do. Hang high if you want to.